Hi, it's Mr. Preuss with another installment of our college planning video series. This and the next several videos will cover the topic researching colleges and building your list. Uh, the list of items on this slide lets you know some of the topics we'll be covering in future videos. We're going to start off though with that first item. Why do you want to go to college? And I think it's an important question to ask up front. There's certainly a lot of emphasis and a lot of energy, a lot of messages in our culture and society encouraging people to go to college, but not everybody does. There are other pathways out of high school, including entering the workforce, joining the military, looking into trade schools or apprentice programs. So, college is not an automatic next step for everybody. In fact, I was doing a little bit of research and I realized, or I learned in the most recent, I think it was the 2019 census, found that only 36% of Americans 25 years of age or older have a 4 year college degree or beyond. So most adults in our country don't have a 4 year college degree. So I think it's important for each of you to ask yourselves, why do you want to go to college? So take a second and ask yourself that question. And I'm serious. Reflect on it. See if you can come up with an answer right now. And it doesn't matter what that answer is, just see if you can look beneath the surface and see what's driving your interest in going to college. Did you come up with anything? What was your reason? Or maybe you have several reasons. Um, if you're with a parent watching, share your thoughts with them. Maybe they have thoughts about why you should go to college. They can share them with you. All right, important question. All right, we'll move on. Perhaps you wanted to go to college because you wanted to train for a specific career. Maybe you want to be a part of, um, a Division I athletic college and be the number one fan and just enjoy an athletically focused college environment. Maybe you want to go to college to grow in independence and learn how to navigate this world with more autonomy. Maybe you want to explore a lot of different ideas. You don't have a specific career path yet, so you want to just take as many different classes as you can and see what emerges from all that you learn. Um, the answer to your question of why you want to go to college is going to help identify certain criteria that you'll want your college to possess. There are lots of different colleges out there. There's thousands of colleges that you could choose from. Lots of different ways we can categorize them. There are colleges that offer 2 year degrees, that offer 4 year degrees, public colleges, private colleges, research universities, liberal arts colleges, trade and technical schools. So don't skip over the step of really reflecting on why you want to go to college. That's going to help you as you develop your list. So, in a general sense, again, just to give you a quick overview of getting into research, um, you're going to be looking at a lot of information over the next year, hopefully, gathering a lot of info, putting it into your head, letting it trickle down into your gut, letting it percolate, as I say, and you're going to arrive at some conclusions based on a lot of synthesizing of information that you might not even do consciously. So here are three key criteria that I think you could use to gauge whether a college is right for you or not. So first off, does it have what you're looking for? Based on those criteria, will it help you meet your goals in going to school? Does it have the things you want your college to have? If it does, it might be the right college for you. But there are two other important questions that you need to research and get answers to before you'll know if it's a right college for you. Second one is, can you gain admission? So part of your research is going to be exploring the admissions environment to find out if you think it's likely you'll gain admission to the school. And then an important question that oftentimes gets pushed towards the end of the discussion and the process, but I think a question that belongs out front is, can you afford the cost? And there's a lot of questions around this. You're not going to base this decision on the sticker price that you see when you research a college. There's a lot of information. Um, there's a lot of things that are going to bring that price down for the majority of students. So you're not going to base affordability on the sticker price, but there's work that you need to do um, to make sure that there are some colleges on your list that are going to be affordable for you and your family. So those are the three major criteria. Lots of additional individual questions that you're going to be evaluating each college on. So a good rough overview of the process that I would recommend you follow as you get into your college research is to identify criteria that are important to you. Again, does it offer a particular training pathway through a major, perfect example might be physical therapy. To be a physical therapist, you need to be licensed. You need a doctoral degree. So you'd want to find colleges that offer the proper training pathway, a doctor of physical therapy program. Could be the sports teams. We've had students who build their list to include colleges that have robust athletic programs. They want to be one of the fans in the crowd going crazy with a recognizable name school cheering their teams on. So take some time and think about what's important to you, what you'd like your college to have. I find that a lot of students develop their list of criteria as they walk through their research. You might not have a clear sense right now of all the criteria, but as you compare schools and learn about them, you realize that some additional criteria emerge as important to you. To get you started, there are three criteria that I recommend that you use if you're going to be plugging criteria into a search engine and getting some help building a list. Those three criteria are on the screen here: geographic location, major, and admission selectivity. Um, the main search engine that I recommend you start with when building a list is Big Future. It's a College Board search engine, and Big Future will allow you to set some parameters for geographic location, meaning what state the college is in, what region of the country. It even lets you limit the colleges to a certain distance from a zip code. So you could say, I don't want to go more than a couple hours away from Lake George. So you could search on colleges that are, let's say, 200 miles from zip code 12845. You might say, I would love to be in the Boston area or down in on the Gulf Coast of Florida. So you can generate a list very easily geographically by plugging in a zip code and a distance. And Big Future will show you all the schools in that geographic area. And then a third criteria would be admission selectivity. Um, there are a couple key indicators that you can use to determine the selectivity of a school. Some students look at the admit rate. So how many students that apply actually get into the college. The fewer students who apply that get in, the more selective that college would be considered. Some colleges accept 70% of their applicants or more. Other colleges accept 10% of their applicants or less. So that's one measure, but it doesn't really give you any indication of how you plug into that admissions scheme. So another criteria students will use will be their GPA and some college entrance test scores. So if you have PSAT scores or pre-ACT scores, and then eventually if you have SAT or ACT scores, you can use those scores to narrow down a list based on selectivity. And as we've talked about, Test scores for your graduating class are a bit up in the air and a bit uncertain as far as whether you'll use them, whether colleges will require them. But at this point in time, they can still be a decent measure to use when you're building a list of colleges. And what you can do is you could build a list based on, let's say, a very selective set of schools, and then broaden that out to include less selective schools and less selective schools. You can really kind of drill down into different selectivity levels and see which colleges might match the other two criteria, meaning the geographic location and the major, that fall into different selectivity bands. So if you're just starting off trying to build an initial list, I think these three criteria would be good ones to start with. Sometimes if you include too many criteria, the list starts off too narrow. Um, with Big Future, you can actually select schools that allow freshmen to have cars on campus. For some students, that might be an interesting criteria of a college, but is it a criteria that is important enough to you that you want to rule out colleges that don't allow freshmen to have cars? Probably not right up front. So you can always go in and add criteria to a search if you've saved it. Um, so initially, keep the criteria you're using fairly limited so you can start with a broad base of schools. So after you have a list of schools, the name of the game is to gather information. Get into the information. We'll devote a whole video to that topic, but that is what is going to fuel your thinking. It's going to fuel that churning of all that information inside of you on a gut level so that you can define your criteria and your preferences better. And then you repeat. So, what I see happening is this process starts, it cycles through, and over the course of a year, students are just continuously cycling through their list, perhaps adding some additional schools in, taking some schools off, refining their criteria, hitting the research more. So this is the process you're entering. It's a long-term research project, the longest, biggest research project you'll probably take on in high school. So give it time and patience, and walk through those steps, and you'll find that your preferences emerge. A prioritized list of colleges emerges over time as well. The goal, again, looking at the goals for your junior year, would be that by the end of junior year, you have a list of colleges that you feel good about, that offers the criteria you're interested in. And developing a list of 10 to 15 colleges, walking out of junior year with a list about that size would be great. You might have a smaller list, you might have a bigger list. That's okay. But 10 to 15 would probably be a good target heading into the summertime. And it would be helpful if, based on your research of admissibility and admissions criteria, you could section those schools off into different categories that we talk about. Safety school, fit school, reach school. A safety school being a college where you feel like your chances of admission are very strong. Um, a fit school would be a school where your numbers and the criteria for admission seems to be a good match for you. And then a reach school would be a school that the numbers and the admissions criteria could be a stretch, but the college is very attractive to you for other reasons and other criteria. So it's good to have some colleges of each category on that list that you're building. I would like to give you a little assignment here that'll help you identify some of the criteria that you can pay attention to as you're building your list. Years ago, Boston University produced a video that I think is just really helpful to get your mind around, how to look at colleges, what to pay attention to, the sorts of questions you want to ask, and the information that you want to gather. So click the button in the video here and take in Boston University's little promo video. And seriously, write down the criteria that you hear mentioned. What are some things that you might want in your college, um, or to know that your college offers? What are some factors that you'd want to consider when choosing a college? This video is filled with ideas and suggestions, So this might get your mind thinking a little bit about the different things you'd want to research for your list of colleges. And then again, after you watch the video, discuss what you came up with a parent, or if you're a parent, discuss what you came up with your student, and allow that to get the conversation going. So one more slide here, and then you're off to do this assignment. Okay. Um, so we've been through the why and some of the how. Like I said up front, future videos are going to address in more detail the issue of identifying criteria, conducting a search, where to turn for information, and then visiting colleges, how to connect with admissions offices. We know that visiting colleges has really changed over the last year. Colleges are working hard to provide access to their campuses and their admissions offices. So we'll spend a video just giving a preview of ways you can reach out and connect with the colleges on your list.